What if I told you that you are not bad with money? What if I told you that the reason you feel broke at the end of every month has nothing to do with your choices and everything to do with a system that is quietly working against you? Right now, across the United States, millions of ordinary Americans are doing everything right. They wake up early, they go to work, they skip the extras, they pay their bills on time, and still, at the end of the month, the number in their bank account doesn't make sense. The paycheck that used to last 30 days now barely makes it to the 20th. You are not imagining it. You are not alone. And by the time this video ends, you will understand exactly where your money is going and why it is only going to get harder. If nothing changes, stay with us, because this story is about your life, your money, and the future of the American family. Let's start with the most basic thing any person does every single week: buying food. In 2019, the average American household spent around $4,600 a year on groceries. That is roughly $88 a week. Not fancy food, not organic, not restaurant meals. Just the basics. By 2024, that same household is spending closer to $5,700 a year. That is over $1,000 more every single year. For the exact same cart of food, a dozen eggs that cost $1.55 years ago now regularly costs $3.50 to $4. Ground beef that was $3 a pound is now pushing $5 and $6. A basic loaf of bread that used to cost $1 now costs $2.50. Parents are putting items back at the register. They are switching to cheaper store brands. They are skipping fresh vegetables because the price has become too high. Food banks across the United States are reporting record demand, not just from people who lost their jobs, but from people working full-time, who still cannot afford to fill their refrigerator. Once grocery prices rise in America, they almost never come back down. Now let's talk about housing. Because if the grocery bill is a cut, housing is the wound that never stops bleeding. In 2020, the median rent for a one-bedroom apartment in the United States was around $1,100 a month. By 2024, that number had climbed past $1,500 nationally. And in cities like Austin, Denver, Miami, and Phoenix, rents rose by 30 to 40% in just 2 or 3 years. Think about what that means for someone earning $40,000 a year, which is right around the median income. For millions of Americans in retail, logistics, and food service, after taxes, that is roughly $2,800 in take-home pay each month. If rent alone is $1,500, more than half of that paycheck is already gone. Before groceries, before gas, before a single utility bill. Financial experts say you should spend no more than 30% of your income on housing. But today, nearly half of all American renters are spending more than that, and a large portion are spending over 50%. That is not a lifestyle choice. That is a slow financial crisis, playing out in rental homes across this country. Then there is healthcare. The average annual cost of employer-sponsored family health insurance has crossed $23,000 per year. Workers typically pay about a third of that themselves. That means families are spending over $7,000 a year just for the coverage, before seeing a single doctor, before filling a single prescription, before paying a single copay. For millions of Americans who are self-employed or work part-time, individual plans can cost $500 to $700 a month, with deductibles reaching $5,000 or more. So what happens? People skip their annual checkup because the copay is not in the budget. They stretch their prescriptions, taking a pill every other day to make it last longer. They ignore a symptom and hope it goes away on its own, because going to the doctor has become a financial risk. Medical debt is now the leading cause of personal bankruptcy. In the United States, Not reckless spending, not bad investments, medical bills, in one of the wealthiest countries on earth. Now let's talk about getting to work. Because in most of America, that means one thing. The car. Unlike major cities in Europe or Asia, the vast majority of American communities were built around the automobile. There is no subway. There is no reliable bus line. If you need to get to work, you need a vehicle. And that vehicle needs fuel. When gas prices spiked past $5 a gallon in 2022, a worker commuting 25 miles each way was spending $400 to $500 a month on fuel alone. For someone earning $15 an hour, that is nearly a full week's wages, just to get to the job and back. And it is not just gas. Auto insurance premiums jumped more than 20% in a single year in many states. A routine maintenance visit that used to cost $350 now regularly runs $500 or more. Then add electricity, natural gas, and internet. Utility bills have risen steadily across the country. During record heat waves, families saw electric bills of $400 to $600 in a single month. Internet access now essential for work and daily life. Add $60 to $80 every month. None of these feel dramatic on their own. But together every month they are relentless. Now here is the part that makes all of this even harder to talk about. Wages have risen. That is true. Many American workers have seen their pay increase over the past several years. Minimum wages were raised in numerous states. Employers offered higher starting salaries. On paper, Americans were earning more than before. But when you measure those wages against groceries, rent, healthcare, fuel, and utilities, all rising at the same time, a very different picture emerges. For millions of working Americans, real purchasing power has actually gone down. You are earning more dollars, but those dollars buy less than they used to. For Americans on fixed incomes, retirees on Social Security, people on disability, there is no raise coming at all. There is only a world that keeps getting more expensive, on an income that cannot keep pace. The forces driving up the cost of basic living in America are not temporary. Rents will remain elevated for years. Food prices are not going back to 2019 levels. Healthcare costs have grown faster than wages for decades. This is not a crisis that is coming. For tens of millions of Americans, it is already the daily reality. It is the grocery cart trimmed at the register. It is the lease signed because every other option was worse. It is the doctor's appointment rescheduled again, because the last bill is still unpaid. The people living this are not failing. They are navigating a system in which the cost of an ordinary life has quietly and steadily outgrown what ordinary work can pay for. And until that gap begins to close, millions of Americans will keep doing everything right and still coming up short. That is the reality of rising living costs in America. And it is far from over.